Hello and welcome to the garden, and this week we've got lots of tips for you. We're going to start by showing you how to sow salads and grow them in pots and containers. We're going to do a bit of work on the lawns to keep the edges nice. We're going to trim the bay to keep it in shape, and we're going to deadhead the roses. It's great to have salads all the way through the year really, and when you buy them they never stay fresh, so you can grow your own very easily at home for most of the year. Living where I do in North Yorkshire, I can have salads from March, April time right the way through till about November, so for much of the year. They grow in the garden, but if you've got somewhere you can grow them protected, you can extend the season, and I grow lots of them in pots, and it's a really handy way to do it, because by growing them in pots, when they're at a reasonable size to harvest, you can take them down and stand them on a kitchen windowsill or by the back door, so they're handy. So the secret is to sow little and often, because once the plants get too big and go over, you're then going to have a gap. So I like to sow some seeds probably every 3 weeks through the season, and that way we've always got a lovely new flush of leaves. So I tend to do some of them in these very shallow bowls, had them years and just keep recycling the bowl, and I've filled that with a nice open sort of mix of compost there. This is a bagged multi-purpose compost, and I mix in a woolen compost, so that's giving it a good mixture to grow in. Just lightly firm it and level it out, and then we can sow the seeds. Now you're spoilt for choice when it comes to salads. We can get the traditional lettuce, of course, we get the leafy one, we can get the hearting ones, but there are lots of mixtures now that have mustard in there. We've got lamb's lettuce, mizuna, mustard, landcress, rocket, and they've all got spicy flavours and really zing up a salad. But what I'm growing at the moment is just a leaf lettuce, and it's what we call an oak leaf lettuce or salad bowl, and it's a mixed green and red one, so it just adds a bit of colour to a salad. And all we're going to do is sow these nice and thinly over the surface. We call this broadcast sowing, so they're not in rows. We're just going to sprinkle our seed nice and evenly over there like that. Not too thick, otherwise they're going to get too crowded and they'll smother each other. So I think that is probably plenty of seeds there. The spare ones in the packet, and we can sow those in a few weeks' time. And then I need to cover these over with just a very thin layer of compost, just 3-4 millimeters, that's all. It just keeps them moist. So just the same compost, and I'm just very carefully just rubbing that through my fingers and putting it on evenly until the seed pretty much disappears from sight. You could use a little sieve if you've got one, but that is absolutely fine. Just give it a tap to settle it, and then lastly, of course, we need to give it a drink, because it's important that they get the moisture. So just with a fine rose on a little watering can, give them a good soak, and then they want to be kept cool. If lettuce and lots of salad leaves get too hot in the middle of the summer, the seeds become dormant and they don't germinate. So I'm going to leave these outside against a north-facing wall where they're in the shade, and they'll germinate then in about a week. And then what will happen is we keep them watered, keep them nice and moist, and in about 3 weeks' time we will have a bowl of lettuce like that, which are now big enough to pick and enjoy them in salads. And so fresh, better than anything you buy in a bag that's all wilty. I'm a great believer that a lawn is an important part of the garden, especially if you've got room to have one, because it's green all year round, but you do need to keep them fairly tidy. So we mow little and often, and we also trim the edges little and often, because it makes life much easier. And there are various ways you can do that. If you've got a strimmer like this Cobra strimmer here that's got a head that can adjust, these are ideal, and this has got the wheels on there as well, so we can sit it on the lawn. And that makes a really neat job, and once you get the hang of the position of it, you can get round the borders really quickly. But the alternative, if you haven't got one of these, is to use the good old-fashioned long arm shears, and you can still get on really quickly with these. They need to be sharp. I like these because they've got adjustable handles, and it's just a case of really trimming around the edge. So we're just going to go past this plant, and I hold my right hand still and use the left hand to do the cutting, and that way you can keep a really lovely straight edge. And you can see I'm doing that quite quickly, as fast as the cameraman can walk backwards. And then what you do when you've trimmed the edge, because you're doing this little and often, if you it's very easy to tidy up afterwards. If you only do it once a month and the grass is that long, you get masses and masses of grass. So our little tip to finish off is to use a Dutch hoe, and we can see there's not a lot of grass, and all I'm going to do is use the blade and just flick that into the soil, so it mixes it into the soil. That rots down, you don't have to collect it, and we've got a lovely, nice, neat edge. Well, every English garden should have at least one rose, and this is a lovely shrub rose here. This is Gentle Hermione, which is scented, lovely pink that changes through as it opens up, and it's a repeat flower, and to ensure that it keeps flowering right the way through the summer months, we need to deadhead a little and often. Two ways you can do this. We've got a cluster of roses there, this one's out and we've got some buds there, but this one here has gone over. So what I would do with that, just as I'm wandering around the garden, is literally just snap that off. Really simple, they snap off just below the old head. So that just tidies that up and gives those chance to open. But if we look just here, this is a single bloom that's also gone over. Now, rather than snap that off and have a little stump, what I'm going to do is get my secateurs out, trace this stem down to the leaf there, and then with my secateurs, just snip that off. So I'm taking the whole stem off, and then it will produce a new shoot later on in the summer, and we'll get a second flush of flowers. But we've got one more pruning tip, which is down by the house. Well, bay trees come in all shapes and sizes. You can buy them as standards with a lollipop on the top, plant them as a shrub in the garden, and they get huge. They make a really big specimen. Well, this one that we're growing by the back door where it's nice and handy is supposed to be a cone shape, but as you can see, it's just losing its shape a little bit. It's looking a bit ragged around the edges, but it's really easy to get back into shape just with a sharp pair of secateurs. Where there's a branch growing out where I don't want it, then it's just a simple case of trimming it off, and work your way around the plant, anything that is sticking out where it shouldn't be, and just gently work your way around the plant, snipping little bits off until you get that lovely shape that you want. So thank you for watching. We hope you've enjoyed these videos, and we'd like to thank Cobra Garden for their continued support. And if you've enjoyed them, please hit that like button, tell all your friends about it so that everybody can get out there and enjoy their gardens.